the top of the hour, we mentioned to you that House Bill 370 attempts to address what happens if a person who is deemed to be in this country illegally, what would happen to them if ICE or Immigration's Custom Enforcement sends a request to detain this individual, to hold them in a facility, for instance, a county jail. What goes on? There's been some cases where people have been offenders, they have been released from custody, and then when they get out, they wreak havoc and cause problems. And Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page is here. He's one of those that supports House Bill 370, and he's going to tell us what happened in Raleigh yesterday and why he supports this bill. Hey, glad to have you here.
Glad to be back, Mark. Yes, we spent a little time down in the legislature building yesterday with some of the sheriffs from the North Carolina Sheriff's Association. We've been working with the legislature for about a couple of months on this bill. They originally came out with House Bill 370. There was some problems with the Sheriff's Association didn't agree on. Right. And we asked if we could work with them to craft a bill that worked for the sheriffs and also with the intent with the legislature. And basically what we've came up with was a new version of House Bill 370, which basically provides a way for sheriffs when someone is arrested and is in our jail, and I specify they're arrested, end up arrested for state charges and end up in our jail. When we're trying to process that person, we determine that person is not an American citizen. Then there's a certain process we have to follow under the statute, under this bill. And then if we end up notifying ICE, under the circumstance we would have, on the process, we had to notify ICE, and ICE or the immigration agent said, yes, we want to issue a detainer. We want to interview the person, we want to issue a detainer, and also administrative warrant. Then those documents are sent back to the sheriff's office, anywhere in the state. And then what we would do is we would take that person before a magistrate, and then the magistrate would look at the paperwork to establish the probable cause for the issues of an order for that person to be held. Right. I think the biggest consideration is the person that's listed on the detainer is the same person that you have in custody. And that's really the big determination. And this is all made, and this happens when you basically, let's say a person is arrested, just off the top of my head, driving while impaired. And you take them in, you process them, or if it's an offense that requires, I think under statute there's offenses that require photographs and fingerprints, right? And this bill, what this bill says, let me say one thing, this bill changes that a little bit. It just says not just any felony, it says any criminal offense, or any DWI offense level 1, 2, or 3. So any criminal offense or any DWI offense, chapter 20, yes, you would photograph, fingerprint, and during that process, in your interview, if you determine that that person is not a U.S. citizen, then you would move forward and notify Immigration's Homeland Security, and then begin the process for consideration for detainer. Now, here's the misconception. A lot of people, and I'll speak just to Rockingham County, but a lot of people think that every time someone gets arrested and that person's illegally in our country and has been arrested on state charges and ends up in our jails, it's automatically a detainer. Not necessarily. The immigration agents have to make a determination whether they're going to issue a detainer or not. Since 2010, August of 2010, to the present, we've had about less than 350 detainers issued on persons that the federal government, the ICE agents wanted for removal. In Rockingham County. In Rockingham. Okay. We've had 300, I'm sorry, I won't stand corrected. We had about 347. Out of those 347, only 55% of them had detainers issued. So a little more than half. So not every person that's arrested that ends up in the jail, a detainer is issued on. Okay. So when you bring this person into the jail and they are in the process, they're already charged on criminal charges. They're on a criminal charge, and so the staff at the detention center makes pictures and then fingerprints. And I think those fingerprints that are done locally go into a database, and if they are matched with a person, and you get a hit on that, then we're notified. Then you are notified, and Immigration's notified, and so you start the process then of letting them know what's going on, or they're going to know. They're going to know, and they're going to contact us. Right. But the thing is, there's communication, and that's the other thing is it requires communication back and forth between ICE. But now some North Carolina sheriffs are not all that hip on this. And I say because in the last couple of weeks in Mecklenburg County, I know that there was a man who was
caught
being held on criminal charges.
being held on a criminal charge in
and
the
it was
jail.
and was illegal in the country.
And then ICE issued a request
A detainer.
that he to be held.
Yeah.
He was released from the jail by the staff. He reoffended, was brought back to the jail. I believe, if I understand this correctly, a detainer was issued again. He was released again. And so that put this person, there was a 9-hour standoff from this. And so this is a situation to where leaders in Raleigh, along with the Sheriff's Association, are saying, wait a minute, there's a problem here. We got to do something about this.
Yes. They're trying to put together a piece of legislation that gives us guidance and also protection for the sheriffs. One of the concerns that some of the sheriffs, it's about 5 or 6 sheriffs that have stated that they will not, that publicly have stated they will not honor federal detainers. Now here's the thing. They don't have to honor federal detainers as the law exists right now. I, along with the majority of the sheriffs in the state, choose to honor federal detainers, and here's why. It's the best way to help us to identify criminal offenders that are illegal in our country and to aid and assist working with our federal partners to remove those persons at appropriate time within the law from our country.
Now,
to make our community safer.
But the way I understand it, if this House Bill 370 and the Senate bill, if it goes into law,
Go ahead.
and a sheriff refuses, then that sheriff could be subject to being removed from office.
Right.
Am I correct in that?
That's right. I don't, with this law, which the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, as of yesterday, we gave our seal of approval. We support, working with the legislature, that we support House Bill 370. It tells us and guides us on what we're supposed to do and shall do, and what the magistrate shall do. And then when it gets to the point right here that officers subject to removal from what offenses, if any sheriff or police officer shall be removed from office by a judge of superior court, residence in or holding courts in the district where the officer is resident upon charges made in writing and hearing thereunder for the following causes. So, you could be removed for willful or habitual neglect or refusal to perform your duties of his or her office, and also for willful failure or refusal to comply with any of the provisions of Chapter 162.62, which is the procedural for what you're supposed to do when persons come into the jail in the booking process.
So this would be considered a form of malfeasance if you
pretty much, yeah.
If you refuse,
not doing your job
for doing that.
It's not an option.
And you support that?
I do. I think that you should never put politics over public safety. It's a very dangerous proposition, and I think that what we're doing, supporting this effort here, helps us to provide for safer communities.
The ACLU, no surprise, I'm sure, that they are not happy with this, because I think the part that they're really bothered by, according to what I'm reading in the News and Observer, they are saying that the part about that a public official shall be removed from office, I think is raising red flags with them. I think they're really upset with this whole thing. So.
Well, a public official actually, it restates this, but actually my understanding is a public official could have been removed from office before. Well, this actually states specifics and reiterates what you could be removed from office for.
I mean, why do you think, and I'm not asking for you to point fingers, but I'm saying, why do you think that some of these sheriffs are just not supporting this? Why do they not support assisting the federal government or Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, which is a federal agency? Why do you think that they're not doing this?
First, let me say, I can't see why any sheriff in America would not support public safety and making our community safer. And there's a misconception, I think, with these sheriffs that by doing the process and not honoring these federal detainers and not working with our federal partners makes our community safer. I think it undermines the rule of law, and I think it undermines our efforts to make our community safer and removing criminal element. Why do we, when we're working as police officers or deputies or in law enforcement, why do we, when we observe a criminal violation, why do we make an arrest? Because someone has violated the law. Why do we have jails? To remove offenders from the community. Now, jails are temporary. It's temporary.
Right.
Okay, and a person does have a right to bail and bond, but Under the federal law, if a detainer is issued, we have the authority right now to honor it or not. But I choose to honor it because I believe I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a sheriff. When I took that oath to protect the citizens of my community, I took an oath to do that, and I think by honoring federal detainers, I am doing that.
But these other sheriffs in several other
Yeah.
communities have said, we are not going to honor these detainers.
And so that's the dilemma. But the thing is how many more people will be released when detainers were not honored? And how many more people will be re-victimized? Because I believe that if sheriffs across this country were all honoring these detainers,
right,
you could prevent re-victimization. And just like you said with the case you cited, that person came out twice, and when he got out the second time, he reoffended. So with the same victim,
right,
and had a 9-hour standoff. So again, we should try to put our victims first, and we should make sure that public safety should be at the front, not the rear, and politics should not be in anything involved in this.
You think that's what it is?
I think it's a lot of political conversation going on.
And so that may be why some of these sheriffs have chosen to ignore it.
That's my thoughts. I mean, it could be, but again, as a career law enforcement officer, and you've worked in the profession and you've worked in the jail side too. But I think the most important thing we can do is making sure we know who's coming into our jails, right, and who's being released back out into the communities. And this process helps to streamline and codify what we should be doing.
So let's go back for just a moment. If this becomes law, if a person offends and they are brought to the county jail and they are processed, and all of a sudden these red flags pop up that this person is illegal, then what would happen at that point?
According to the law, we notify Homeland Security.
Okay.
And they would either come to do their interviews, or they can do their interviews phone. They can do it in person, but cooperating with these ICE officials, because they're doing their job to help protect our communities also.
So they're going to send you a detainer and
Sure.
say, would you please take this person, or the law is going to say, take this person before a state magistrate.
After, and like I said before, not every person being held in our jail system that are criminally charged that are illegally in our country are detainers issued upon. Okay. But if there is one, what would happen was when a federal detainer request to hold and a person, an administrative warrant comes in, what are we required to do? It says you shall bring that person before a magistrate, and the magistrate shall issue an order upon identification of that being the same person you have on those papers.
Usually in North Carolina, the way it works is you go before a magistrate first, and then if you don't post a bond, then you would go before a district court judge.
Yeah.
So would that be the same process?
You bring up another good point. This was one other thing. Under the current law, the way we interpret, is that we when a person, say he's under bond for a criminal charge and he has a detainer and we're holding him on a detainer, once the person satisfies either his obligation or he posts a bond and is about ready, could be released, then we notify ICE and the clock begins. We got 48 hours to hold. Okay. No more than 48 hours. Under this law, we would have up to 96 hours. Okay. That would allow for weekends and for logistics for the person, as I understand it, so they could come and get the person. But there's three. It says the passage of the 96 hours after the prisoner is eligible for release. So we can't hold longer than 96 hours. Or if immigration ICE agents came to pick them up, it's within the 96 hours we release, as long as it's within. Or if Homeland Security decide to detainer is rescinded, then we can release the person.
You let them go.
Yeah, we let them go then.
But the magistrate the person would go before the magistrate, and the magistrate's going to sign the document that this person is to be held up to 96 hours until to be released. Unless
released within the law.
Within the law.
Yeah.
Okay. So you support this. I mean, I'd really, and the North Carolina Sheriff's Association is supporting this. And of course, I've read or either saw in a video interview where some federal official said that probably 90% or 90 of the sheriffs in North Carolina's 100 counties,
Sure.
there's 100 sheriffs
Sure.
in North Carolina, would have probably held the person in Mecklenburg County. So what I'm saying is I guess my question to you is do you think that the majority of the sheriffs in North Carolina, regardless of whether they actively participate in the Sheriff's Association or not, do you think that they would support this and go along with this if this happens?
I think it'd be safe to say that a majority of the sheriffs in North Carolina are already supporting honoring detainers. Okay?
Okay.
And so on this bill right here, our association body supports this.
Because basically the Sheriff's Association is lobbies, but they are also, they work for the sheriffs, I guess you might say,
right.
of the state.
I'm on the executive committee. It's 11 members of the executive committee, and I'm on the committee. And we work together.
You're the former president.
Former past president. And actually, Mark, you know, I have been working on, working with the National Sheriff's Association,
right.
with the Border Security and Immigrations Committee. I've been working with the National Sheriff's Association on these very same issues for about 9 years now. So when I left Raleigh yesterday,
You've been to the border.
I've been to the border a few times. Have worked with, communicated with persons we're working with ICE, working with Border Patrol to understand what they're doing. Talked with many sheriffs along the border areas, but also now we've reached out to sheriffs from across the country in the interior because we found out during our education period over the years is that what comes to the border doesn't stay there. It transcends across the country, whether it be drugs, human trafficking, and stuff like this. And my whole reason for getting involved in this immigration process is to find out where the drugs are coming into our communities and how can we slow the flow coming in. There are a lot of things we've got to do dealing with those situations, but then you tack on human trafficking and human smuggling. And when you look at it, the Mexican drug cartel, we've talked about this before, they're responsible for a lot of the issues dealing with the human trafficking or the drug trafficking. Either making money off one or they're making money off another. But I commend the state of North Carolina and the legislative body for working with the association to try to help us here in North Carolina. I hope this will be a model for the rest of the country. I truly do. And again, like I said, it's a lot of sheriffs involved, but North Carolina, we're working hard, and hopefully it won't be long. This will go before the governor for his signature.
What kind of feedback are you getting on this? Are you hearing positive feedback from this?
With the exception when I read on a few sheriffs in North Carolina, I think it's about 5 or 6 sheriffs that have vocally stated that they don't support the 287G program, which is an ICE program. It's voluntary. They don't honor the detainers, which is a voluntary program right now. This will become mandatory, okay? Right. But other than that, you know, I think the general public understands what we're trying to do. Public safety is about protecting the people in our communities. And this helps us to better protect, because what better thing than to do is to identify a person that is a criminal offender, that's illegally in the country, to identify that person for removal at the appropriate time, at the proper legal process.
So just again, if House Bill 370 becomes a law, then that means that if a sheriff, which sheriffs in North Carolina are by law are to operate the jails, then if a sheriff says, I'm not doing it, then they can force...
There's a subsection in there, or a section in there in the law that allows for the removal of an elected official or police officer for not, following their duties, carrying out their duties. They're just sworn to do. So, and here's the big picture on this thing, is that our Congress, and I'll have to go back to Congress. There are several in our Congress have failed to act and failed to do what they need to do. Mm-hmm. North Carolina has stepped up, and I commend them. The General Assembly is doing what they can do, working with their law enforcement officials to try to make North Carolina safer. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But our congressmen had the opportunity to fix a lot of these situations, whether it's fixing the asylum laws, because you see what's going on right now with persons crashing our borders and coming in and trying to house people, and thousands and thousands of people are being redistributed across the country until they can have their deportation hearings, which may take years. We've got a lot of things to fix. We need to secure our borders. Mm-hmm. We need to fix our immigration laws. And our Congress needs to work together on both sides to come to a fix for a lot of these issues. But they got to quit talking. They got to start doing something. North Carolina General Assembly, they're doing something.
So last question,
yes,
and
sir.
I'm going to ask you this. Do you think, and I think you know quite a few people in the legislature, do you think this is going to pass? I know it's still got a long way to go. It's got there are committees, this committee, that committee, back and forth.
Let me just say this, is I think that When this goes before the governor, he can see that the sheriffs across this state, the association supports a bill working with our legislature. And that's what we're supposed to be doing, working with our legislative body to craft a bill that will help us to better protect our communities. I wouldn't see why a governor wouldn't support it, but I can't speak for the governor. I would hope that the governor would give a lot of thought to this and would support this bill as written, because we support it. We endorsed it yesterday, and I'll probably go back into the legislature next week as they have another hearing sometime next week, I think Thursday. And again, like I said, my wish is that we can move forward on this, because I saw 9 years of work that I've seen over the years myself working on similar issues and tying into these detainers. It's time to fix this. We can work on this and fix it at the local level, but we still need our support from our federal partners in Congress. So again, I hope the governor will review this. I hope he will support it. The North Carolina Sheriff's Association does support it. And again, we'll let you know. You'll have to stay tuned.
All right, Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page, you'll just have to come back and tell us what's going on.
There you go.
With what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always glad to have
you.
We
appreciate it. Glad to be back.
And Rockingham County Sheriff Sam Page talking about House Bill 370, which is being considered by the North Carolina Legislature. The Senate, actually both houses are looking at something along the lines that would put it to where state officials, law enforcement officials, must work closer with federal officials when it comes to illegal immigrants. So we will keep you updated on what's going on. Again, thanks, Sheriff. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, we'll see you soon, and we will be back. We got more coming up right here on Star News after these messages.